WP MRR WordPress podcast is brought to you by WP Buffs. WP Buffs manages WordPress websites 24/7 and powers digital growth for agencies, freelancers, and WordPress professionals. Join our white label program, and by next week, you could be offering 24/7 white label website support to your clients and passively growing your monthly recurring revenue. Or become a WP Buffs affiliate to earn 10% monthly payouts every month for the lifetime of every client. And finally, if you're looking to sell your WordPress business or website, check out the WP Buffs acquisition unit. Learn more about all three at WPBuffs.com.
All right, we're live on the pod this week with Eithan Abramovich. And I hope I'm saying your last name right. I think it should be almost there. Tell folks a little bit. It was perfect. Okay, nailed it. Cool. Let's start off. Just tell folks a little bit about what you do with WordPress and this new plugin you're putting together.
Yeah, so I'm a computer science student at Georgia Tech, and we're working on a WordPress plugin that helps users promote their blog, make their blog interactive, by allowing users to highlight and share specific phrases within each blog and share them on social media.
Yeah, it's very cool. I think it's really interesting, the capability coming within WordPress to kind of how to connect your WordPress blog with social media platform. And it sounds like in your case, it's Twitter that you're kind of making that connection with. I've seen some of this functionality before in previous tools where you have like a key phrase that you want to kind of share with your audience. Someone wrote something cool. Oh, this is a cool, statement someone made. You can highlight that. And I guess using your plugin, you can click to share it on Twitter. Is that like the general functionality of how it works?
Yeah, so actually you can share on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. And the truth is that it was originally inspired by Medium, by the Medium highlight and share feature. And the whole idea behind it is that, like you said, a lot of blogs have all these share buttons, either in the side or in the bottom, but that doesn't encourage as much sharing since it's not natural. You have to either scroll to the bottom or go to the side and then share it. The idea here is that it's just an extension of how the user behaves. You'll be surprised how much highlighting is going on when users are going through a blog. So we figured if we could help them save each highlight and share a specific phrase on social media, they'll be doing that more. So it's a good way to, promote more shares and also make the blog interactive, stand out from other blogs.
Yeah, we have a pretty powerful blog at WP Buffs. Like, it's pretty visible. We get a lot of traffic from it, but the sharing is like pretty terrible, if I'm being honest. Like, you're totally right. I think that we have share buttons like at the top left where you can pretty easily share, but I think most people are probably not going to share like right when they land on the page. So it's kind of like, are those share buttons really active? We can measure analytics and clicks on that. And it's not a ton. And it's probably because when people land, they want to read, they want to see if it's good before they share it. So it's probably why we have low clicks there. And then we use like an embedded like click to tweet, which is like it's just a box that appears kind of in content, and you can like fill out the content you have, like you want people to tweet with, like, hey, I just read this cool article on, how to, fix your SSL certificate. I don't know how socially share worthy that kind of content is, but people can click to share like there. But that's also like a very specific point in the content that's kind of telling people what to tweet. And I when I was looking through your tool, I thought it was cool because it gives folks the opportunity to share like the exact piece that they want to share, and pretty frictionless. And I think that's how you probably engage more. Is that what you found with the plugin?
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. So some of our clients, even very low traffic blogs, are getting a lot of shares in each blog because it's such a natural thing. And the way we came to figuring out how much people are actually highlighting stuff is an interesting story. So, last year, just as a cool project, we launched a Chrome extension that basically allowed people to highlight anything, and then they would see a tooltip, a hover of more information on that word, on that phrase. And part of what we were tracking was actually number of highlights that users were doing in each, as they were surfing the web. We, of course, weren't seeing the users or necessarily what they were highlighting, but we were surprised the number of highlighting that people were doing, just all the time, going through any kind of content, even if it's just for copy pasting, they were highlighting a lot. And that's what sort of gave us a wake-up call and say, wow, people, this is a really natural function of users. This is just the way they're interacting with the content they're reading. And so that's when the idea sort of began to pop into our heads that users are already doing this. Maybe they want to share with other people what's calling their attention to highlight.
Yeah, I think most small businesses and startups and people who are just starting a website or just starting out, they're looking for that thing that's going to give them like disproportionately good amount of results for the input, because there's a million things you could do to grow a blog or to grow your traffic or to grow your sales or revenue or whatever. But if you're seeing a lot of folks with smaller blogs and not as much traffic get a disproportionate amount of shares through this, like that's a really cool piece of analysis.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable. Really surprising. Like, our users are reaching out to us and they're saying, wow, I'm getting shares when I wasn't getting shares before. And that's a very big part of it.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that feeling because you're especially helping people who are just starting off. Like I remember that feeling when we got our first sale at WP Buffs. And it's like when I see someone on Twitter like sharing our content for the first time, it's like, wow, it's like a cool feeling. So it's nice to be able to share that with others. I'd like to rewind a little bit to kind of who you are a little bit as well, because the way that you got introduced to me was actually just through an email. You just emailed me. You said, "Hi, Joe. A couple of friends and I at Georgia Tech just launched Highly, a WordPress plugin that allows bloggers to add a highlight and share tooltip to their blog so readers can highlight, share, and share individual phrases on social media." It was a super short email. And at first when I received it, I was like, okay, another cold email. I usually open them and then I usually don't trash them, but I just don't answer them, most cold emails. But the way you started this was you said a couple of friends and I at Georgia Tech, and that actually kind of intrigued me a little bit. And I actually replied to you and I looked at the plugin. It didn't have a ton of downloads. So I said, hey, why don't you get back to me when you've reached 1,000 downloads and then we can chat. And then actually 10 minutes after I sent that, I was like, that was stupid. Why not chat? Just because he doesn't have 1,000 downloads doesn't mean that, the plugin's not valuable or proven. We should chat about it on the podcast. And so I actually said, okay, let's jump on the podcast. But I think the thing that made me really want to get back to you was the fact that you said just a couple of friends and I at Georgia Tech just launched this. So tell me about building this plugin while, at college, at university. I'm sure you're taking other class. I'm sure you have class loads and, you have, maybe during COVID, the social environment isn't quite as active as you'd like it to be or as it should be. But I'm sure you have a lot of stuff going on. How are you finding time to put this plugin together while, also attending Georgia Tech? Also, what year are you?
So I'm a senior. I'm graduating, God willing, in next week or in 2 weeks.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's definitely a priority. When I came to university, it was with the mentality that, I want to get a degree that is prestigious because I think that was important. But at the same time, the most important thing for me was, meeting people that were interesting and being around really intelligent people and then learning what I wanted to learn. So it's actually interesting how I met my co-founders, with that notion in mind. So our second year of college, I took this class, which was it's a startup class. Georgia Tech gives you some money and you start a business, whatever you want. But before you start the business, you actually meet your co-founders. You go into a room with all these students that are in the class and you start, talking to people. And just meet your co-founder. So it's interesting the way I went about. I didn't know anyone in the class, but the way I went about meeting my co-founders, I don't know how smart this was, but it actually worked out nicely. I went around asking people what their GPAs were. Probably the only person, what's your GPA? What's your GPA? Of course, it's not straight up, but I did do that, and I found the two smartest people I found in the room. That sounded the smartest, had the most experience, and also had the highest GPAs. And we started working together. And that was 2 years ago. We've worked on a lot of products since then. and not this plugin at all. But through iterations and always the same team is how we came to work on this.
Yeah, well, you're young. You don't have as much of, as big networking opportunities, or probably as big of a network as someone who may be a little bit older, who's been around the block a little bit. So you have to find some way to find, the people in the room who are going to work the best with you. So it's interesting. I never heard anybody use that strategy before, but clearly it's worked to a degree. I mean, you found a couple folks who you've worked on some cool projects with, and have gained some traction with them. So okay, so found a couple folks who you've been working with on this for a while. Tell me a little bit about did you think at all, like, because I feel like when I think about someone who has a pretty good GPA, especially at a school like Georgia Tech, I think about someone who's probably like really good at school, someone who's really like has a pretty high IQ, and probably someone who, because they may be really good at school, I don't know if that would make them a good entrepreneur. I think in a lot of cases there may not be a correlation. Did you have any thoughts there in terms of like, well, if they're good at school, like, are they going to want to like start a company and like start this little business on the side, or were you just kind of like looking for smart people and that was kind of your goal?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But the truth is that this class wasn't a well-known class at all. Now it is, but back then it wasn't. And if you wanted to take the class, you had to go through a lot of hoops to take it. You had to apply and write this essay, whereas you didn't have to do that with any other class that you could just sign up for, and you had to get accepted to take the class. So that was already an indication that whoever was here wanted to start a business. And Georgia Tech has over the past couple of years been incredible with getting entrepreneurship on campus. They have this mission that they want every single student on campus before they leave to be, exposed to some aspect of entrepreneurship. Whether that's through entrepreneurship classes that they now have. They have an accelerator, which we also went through, where they give you also a small grant where you get to work on it in the summer. And incredible networking opportunity. So just by them being in that room was already an indicator that they wanted to work for themselves.
Yeah, so there sounds like there was some kind of vetting in place already for folks like that. So cool. Okay. So Highly Analytics, and if people want to go check this out, it's just highlyanalytics.com, and people can also find this on the plugin repository, WordPress.org plugin repository. Just search Highly, it'll probably come up, but it's called Highly Highlight and Share Social Media plugin. What's your future with this plugin look like? Right now, it looks like, I'm like checking out the plugin repository. It looks like it was last updated 1 day ago. So clearly you're keeping the plugin itself updated, which is great. It looks like you're still in double-digit active installations. So looks like it's still kind of in its infancy and growing. Is this a project that it kind of has come out of university and it's more, something you're just trying out right now and you're thinking like, this is a cool project, I want to see how far I can get this? Or do you really feel like you want to kind of hit the gas on this and like make it, something you want to continue to work on in the years to come and continue growing and expanding?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens based on the traction that we get. I would love to work on it full time. But actually, we do have, so Highly Analytics allows you to get this plugin on any site, and then so that's been going on already for a couple of months, and the newer thing is the WordPress plugin, which is sort of a free version of just the plugin without all the analytics behind it. And we can talk about those analytics if you want.
Yeah, the analytics are really cool. That's actually what I wanted to dive into next, because the social sharing and seeing like who, how many people have shared, like that's cool metric, but it's also kind of like a vanity metric. I mean, obviously like you want to know that people are sharing, but if you really want to know how to, use that actual shared data to influence decisions or to make changes in your business, like you really have to know like some of the analytics behind like what exactly people are sharing. And it's just on highlyanalytics.com. I see some of the things where you can like see like how many not only like how many shares certain things are getting, but you can like see your most popular phrases that are shared. So like the example here is like find out what resonates the most with your readers by seeing top shared highlights and reacted to phrases within each article, which is cool. So it sounds like that may be something that is that something people will get with the free version right now? Or is it something right now they'll need like a premium version, or how does that work?
Yeah, so right now they can't get that with the free version. With the free version, they just get the actual tooltip that allows people to share, highlight and share. But regarding the analytics, what we found, and maybe you've seen this with your blog also, this is what we were hearing a lot of people saying as well, is that they have no way of knowing how people feel about their content if they're not commenting, right? So if people comment on your blog, then you know how they feel. And also if you find that they're sharing something, on social media, they're sharing something on Twitter, that's good. They shared this article, they liked it, this article got a lot of shares. But beyond that, there was not really so much of a way for users to see for bloggers to see how their users felt about their content. We thought that was missing, and the data is there. So where the analytics comes in, after the sharing, so it's sort of a two-sided thing. Once you have the sharing, making the blogger interactive and more shareable, increasing site shares, making it interactive, making it fun, helping you stand out. But then you also have the analytics part of it, which is, okay, what were the phrases that were shared the most? And not only what were the phrases that were shared the most, but also with not the WordPress plugin yet, but with the JavaScript version of it, you could also react with emojis. So you could say, highlight something and give a happy face, a sad face, etc. And that also gives the blogger a sense of, which within each post, what feelings are resonating within their audience. And that's where the analytics comes in. And so our idea is, to get as many free users as we can, as large as an audience as we can through the WordPress plugin, for them to, be hooked on the interactive and shareable part. And then, to begin wondering, okay, I see, I want to know who's sharing it, or not who's sharing it, but, where are the shares? What are they sharing? And hopefully that's where the analytics part will come in.
That part is really cool. For someone like me, I think that's actually more valuable. It would be more of a reason for me to implement a plugin like this. So on our blog, we tried to, we have, hundreds of thousands of visitors a month. So it's not the biggest blog in the world, but it's steady traffic. It's a lot of organic traffic coming through that blog, enough that we get a lot of readers. I can go on to the live, analytics and see 20, 30 people at a time on the blog at any given time. So it's a good amount of traffic. And we tried to implement this little piece of text in the top right corner of every blog post, just in a blog template that was hey, have any feedback for this article? Click here, we'll give you some free merch. And it went through to a type form questionnaire that was actually super short. It was 3 questions, and it's just to get a little feedback. And we got 1 response in a month out of hundreds of thousands of visitors. Yeah. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the point. Bloggers are craving this. And if I show you, for example, just a sample dashboard on any of our current users, it's interesting to see human behavior and how you have, a whole blog with 1,000 or 2,000, 3,000 words, and everyone's sharing the same phrase, right? And you have no idea that it's this one phrase, that's getting all these shares. And you have no idea. So that's the idea.
Yeah. And that reaction piece, I think, is that really helps you to see. It allows users to really easily, as they're reading, engage with the content, as opposed to have to go to another page or do something. It's literally while they're reading, you can just click a thumbs up. It's kind of like a reaction in Slack. It's when you're in Slack, you just react to a post with an emoji, and it's that same ease of use. And I see this across a lot of different softwares, like copying Slack. It's doing the same thing. And I think this is a really interesting application to that, because it allows bloggers and content producers online to get real-time feedback on not just pieces of content, but actually individual sections of different content. Like maybe a ton of people are like reacting, with this thing that's halfway down the page and they're like thumbs up, heart. And you're like, why is this halfway down the page? Like this should probably be like core to what we're doing if people are liking it so much. Or we should create a little skip section at the top that says, go right here to read this section, so that if most people are enjoying the content, probably you want to like drive more people there. So that's how you get better engagement, I think. So yeah, I'm very into that idea. Is that something that people, like if I'm a reader of the blog, I'm not the blog manager, I just like came to the blog, I searched Google, I found the blog. Can I see like using that plugin where other people have liked or used emojis on that blog? Or is it really just like for just only the blog manager or the people with dashboard access able to see those reactions?
Yeah, so for now it's only the dashboard manager. It's not like Medium where you could see top highlights of other users, which is what you're saying. Yeah. But we're exploring that as a possible next step, definitely.
Yeah, cool. I think I'm just one person, so don't just take what I say and go build it. But if people are giving more of that feedback, I like your idea of continuing to get as many users as possible right now. Not because I think it's just like a lot of folks who need to go after a number of users, it's like more of a funded company. It's like you want to see growth in number of users, but there's definitely value in just growing and getting as many users as possible at your stage, because that allows you to get more feedback. And that's how you grow, is you get the feedback and you give people, you build things that people want, or using the analytics that you see. But if you don't have a lot of data in that analytics, you don't have a big enough data set, it's not, statistically significant enough, you don't have enough users, you could go down the wrong track, because 2 users out of 10 gave you something, but you really needed like 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 users to get a good sample size. So anything right now that you're thinking that you're like kind of in the process of building out right now for like new features for it, or thinking about that's in the process?
Not yet. We just came out with the WordPress plugin, and that was also through a lot of discussion and thought with our team and with users. Actually, after every customer signs up, I email them and ask them to get on a call with me after a couple of weeks of them using the platform. And I'll tell you why we came up with the WordPress plugin as opposed to just the JavaScript version of it. Was that, so if you go to highlyanalytics.com, you see the 2 products put together, which is the analytics which we've spoken about, and also the sharing side of it. And we found that people were people were saying, we were getting some feedback that it was sort of 2 separate products that were mashed together, and it was hard to convey the value, and so that's where this new strategy came in, which is, release a free version of just the sharing side of it, the tooltip side of it. And then hopefully through those users, eventually get them curious about the, what's being shared, and then comes in the analytics, as opposed to, selling it both at the same time.
Yeah, I see that on the website now. And I think it's most people who start off don't do that, Eithan. Most people who are starting out, they want to figure out how to automate things as quickly as possible and how to kind of streamline for future growth, which I don't think is always necessarily wrong, but I'm a big believer in doing the unscalable things when you're starting off in order to get the feedback, in order to engage with your user base, in order to build a community, not just like in the sense of like quote unquote building community, but build a community of users that like you, that want to see you succeed, that want to give you feedback. Because if you ask everyone for feedback and 1 out of 100 person gives you feedback, that's okay. But if 10 out of 100 give it, like, wow, that's 10 times as much feedback. And to be successful, it's really just like solving pain points. And the plugin, how it exists today, may not be how the plugin exists a year from now. Definitely may not be how it exists 2 years from now. In fact, I'd say probably not. Like, you'll probably move in a direction based on, if you get enough good feedback, you'll most definitely move in a direction that you actually probably didn't even really think about. Or maybe it was in somewhere in your brain, but you got that feedback from people and that actually pushed you to say, okay, people want this. And hey, they're willing to pay for it. Okay, that's how you move into premium, building a premium plugin that people will pay for, because you're literally, they told you like, this is what I would pay for, or like, this is the challenge I'm having. And if it's a challenge that, will help people themselves make more money or it's worth swiping their credit card for, that's what you build, right?
Right. And if I actually tell you, how we got to the plugin from, our original idea 2 years ago, it's it proves what you're saying 100%. We actually started as an essay editing platform. And hear me out how you get from that to this. But the idea was, and it's still going on. It's making money every month with very little involvement. But the idea was to create a platform. It's called Edicratic, to create a platform for real-time back and forth editing, starting with college essays. So someone submits an essay, and right away we have crowdsourced editors that all get messaged and start editing, and it also allows for back and forth communication between the editor and the user. So the idea was, through crowdsourcing, through real-time interaction, people can get feedback on their essays from people. But through a lot, we learned that, one, it's expensive to pay people to edit essays, so that lowers margins. And two, we wanted to go beyond just college essays. So how do you create something where people could get feedback, and it's larger than college essays? So blogging, there's nothing bigger than blogging in terms of content. And this is literally the same principles for that from Edicratic, which is real-time crowdsource. You have users that are reading blogs, providing feedback, not through editing like you had with Edicratic, but through highlighting stuff and through reacting. And so it's those same principles of Edicratic, those same things we saw work then, being applied to now a new industry in a new way, but with the same concepts of crowdsourcing, of real-time. And of course, it has much larger, profit margins, since we're charging for the software to see the analytics on users' highlights, as opposed to paying the editors to edit your work.
Yeah, I think that crowdsourcing piece is really powerful. And I think you've kind of jumped from this old model of, well, we have this crowdsourcing model, but it's with editors, so they still need to be paid for their time. So there's that, that creates some friction in terms of a business model, both financially and just systems wise. It's okay, we got to figure this out. But moving from that into Highly, you're still using that crowdfunding mentality and those systems, but it's almost free input, right? Because people are willingly giving that feedback on articles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think I feel like I've been trying, over the past 6 months, especially, maybe a year, we've been trying to really differentiate our blog, differentiate the WP Buffs blog. Because I think we have pretty good content overall. We have a YouTube channel, so we have a lot of YouTube tutorials as well. And those get embedded in blog posts. Our content's good. It's pretty unique. It's helpful. The tutorials are solid. But there are a lot of WordPress blogs with pretty solid tutorials, right? It's I don't know exactly how much that purely differentiates us between other blogs. But to me, this is also potentially a differentiator of a blog, because I'm thinking we're putting a lot more effort in how do we create lasting impacts and unforgettable experiences and positive impacts for everybody who interacts with us? And I think this is an interesting way to do that. People came to read a blog post. Well, you can do more than just read. You can react. You can interact. We love that feedback. We want to make our blog better. Now it's a relationship we're building with our readers, and not just we wrote this thing for you to be helpful to you, of course, but come and read it, and that's all. It adds another layer of relationship building to people. And I think that's pretty important, because because we drive so much organic traffic, a lot of that leaves, right? A lot of those people don't visit second pages. A lot of people read the tutorials and they get what they need, and then they close the tab. But if people came and they had a good experience, they got value from that article, but they also reacted with us. They built even a small piece of a relationship with us. I think that makes it that much more likely that if they saw wpbuffs.com in a search engine result someplace, or in a YouTube video recommendation or something, they'd be oh, I want to go watch that video because those are good. Those are people I've built a little bit of relationship with, as opposed to maybe some of these other folks who I maybe don't know yet, or I maybe read their blog, but that's all I did. I read it, but I didn't have that layer of relationship building. So I think there's something to that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think that part of that is important.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to go beyond just, providing analytics and value for the bloggers, but like you said, also providing value for the reader, right? We want to provide value for the reader, and right now it's in the way of making the blog fun and interactive, but eventually that value will be beyond just highlighting. That value will hopefully come, like we talked about earlier, through perhaps even seeing other people's highlights and feeling like there's a community within each blog that those highlights afford.
I like that idea a lot. I think there's a lot in that idea. I think it's a very powerful idea. I think it would take a lot of work to get there, but I'm thinking of like a product hunt sort of community. Maybe not exactly like that, but I'm thinking about like when I go and log into Product Hunt to check out like a new product there, I liked when I see like the little circles of like other people who have liked that thing. And especially like, I don't know what you'd call them, influencers or whatever, but like people who I know in an industry who are like, oh, they liked it. Like, that's cool. I should check that out. It would be cool if that was brought into like a content experience of like, oh, like for WordPress, like, if like Chris Lemma, like, I don't know how much you know about WordPress community, but Chris Lemma, like people know him in the WordPress space. If he liked a blog post, people would be like, oh, like they see his little like icon in the top right, like Chris, like hearted this section, like that adds like relationship building, and it adds like some clout to that blog and stuff. And honestly, it's a pretty easy way to be able to like build that. So like, again, this is just like one person's feedback, right? But in terms of like future direction, that's definitely an interesting one. I could see how that could be really powerful for blogs, not just to have like this tutorial that will help you, but like there's some social proof and there's some like almost like leverage that's like put in there as people comment, that it's not just a little sidebar that people, it's like it's gotten 300 shares. Like, yeah, that's cool. But like, who shared that? It could be like 300 bots. Like, I don't know who shared that, but like, right. But like, and so when I see those, I'm like, cool, but like, whatever. Like, it's not, for me, it's not going to make me want to share, but like, oh, if like someone I know liked this, well, now I'm probably more interested in like, oh, I respect that person's opinion. Maybe I should read more of this. So I think it's an interesting idea.
Right. Yeah, that could be further down the road, since
totally
that that would require account creation and people creating accounts in each place. But really, we'll see what our users think. We'll hear from them. What's the perfect amount of what's the perfect amount that we input to make their experience better, and to a point where it doesn't become intrusive.
Yeah, that's the right answer. All of that's the right answer.
Right. And like you said, it's people spend hours in social media because they could see they could like stuff, they could share things, and we're sort of it's before you had blogging, and then you had social media, but we hope that Highly could make blogging more of a social media like activity itself. And yeah, those are all concepts that we're playing with, and we'll see how users feel about it. Yeah, but that's what we're thinking of.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'd like to start wrapping up, but I want to talk a little bit about like monetization of the plugin and like what your plans are for that, because it's still a small plugin. You've got a few co-founders that if 3 folks want to go full time on it, that's going to require some capital to keep it going. What's the plan right now moving forward to, and I know you're focused on user growth and getting feedback and creating a great product, and as you should be focused on all those things, but the financial aspect is important too. If you're deciding, hey, I want to go full time on this, what's the roadmap look like to kind of continue to build MRR for Highly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So So the roadmap is getting as many free users on the plugin as possible. Getting 10,000, 100,000, a million users on the plugin, and then begin teasing them with the analytics that they could have access to. So, begin linking them to the dashboard, which they could now see in highlyanalytics.com also, if they just get the JavaScript version of it. But, begin teasing them with the analytics that they could see, and then hope that those free users convert to paying subscription users. Because we think it's much harder to get people to sign up as a subscription right away with the analytics and the tooltip together. That's been our experience. But if we could, get them through the free version of just the tooltip, get a lot of downloads that way, and then, tell them what's available, the possibilities of the analytics that they could see. That's our way to monetization right now. That's our plan.
Very cool. And you're graduating here just in a couple weeks. So again, congratulations on that. Do you plan, I guess, to continue pushing forward on things like after graduation? Like, is this your job after graduation? Or do you think you may do a little contracting and consulting, or maybe get a full-time job somewhere and do this on the side? Or is this really going to be your full-time thing once you graduate?
No, so I'm actually, I have a job lined up. I'm starting in June, God willing. And I'm going to be a financial analyst. So I'll be doing this on the side for now. And as soon as I can, I'll jump, full time.
Cool. We'll Sounds good. I'm a fellow, I never was in finance, but I was working a full-time job, doing some work on the side, and then eventually starting WP Buffs on the side. And I did that for about 9 months before I went full-time on that. Maybe it was like a year, but I was doing full-time work kind of from 9 to 5. So I have a sense that you're pretty entrepreneurial, and I think that jumping into finance is a good idea for now, potentially, but you may get bored of it somewhat quickly. I mean, finance has its own interesting challenges, but for someone who's not as entrepreneurial as you, I think you probably you can be successful creating your own products, doing your own thing, and building something yourself. And yeah, if that point ever comes, I'm always open to talking about it, because I know most people I've talked to on the podcast have worked a full-time job and then found WordPress and have ended up jumping into it. So who knows, you may follow that line too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Cool. Well, congratulations again. Cool. Let's start wrapping up today's episode. I appreciate you being on. This is a lot of fun. And I hope folks go check out Highly and try it out. Test it out. See what you think about it. Give some feedback to Eithan and let his team take some of that feedback and keep building the product out. So let's start wrapping up. Tell folks where they can find Highly, where they can find you online, if you're on social media, all that jazz.
So they could find the website on highlyanalytics.com, or they could search us up, and on the website you have the JavaScript version of it. If you want to find the WordPress version of it, you can find it from the website, but also by looking us up in the WordPress directory. The name is Highly Highlight and Share Social Media Plugin.
Yep. Cool. And last thing I asked our guests to do is to ask our listeners for a little Apple Podcast review. So if you wouldn't mind asking folks now for a little Apple Podcast review, I'd appreciate it.
Go ahead and review this on the Apple Podcast and tell us what you think.
There you go. Appreciate that, Eithan. You can leave a review if you go to wpmrr.com/review. If you're on an Apple device or a Mac, it takes you right there. You can just leave a star rating, but you can also leave a comment. We love comments. I read every one of them. And I can also shoot a screenshot to Eithan saying thanks for helping us get a review. Also helps us with content ideas. If we get a few reviews for this episode, hey, we'll do more content like this. So that is always extremely helpful for us here on the pod. If you are a new listener, we've got 140 plus episodes. We're almost at 150 episodes. We've got a ton of content in the back all around WordPress, building a business, scaling, growth, hiring, pricing, all that stuff. Go to wpmrr.com/podcast and use the search bar there. Search for whatever content you think will be helpful for you right now. Cool. That is it for this week on the podcast. We will be in your earbuds again next Tuesday. Eithan, thanks again for being on, man. It's been real.
Thank you, Joe.
See you, everyone.